Greetings, friends. Prepare for another thrilling journey as we delve into Reddit's most bizarre tales. We're plunging deep into the quirkiest corners of the web. Grab your popcorn and join us on this adventure. Remember to hit subscribe and like. Let's begin. 10 years ago, when my wife and I were just a few years into our marriage, things took a hard turn. We had been through the honeymoon phase where everything feels fresh and exciting, but the real world started creeping in. We were both stressed, she from work, me from growing doubts about whether we had made the right decision to commit to each other so young. The passion that had once fueled our relationship was dwindling, and intimacy felt like a distant memory. It wasn't that we didn't love each other anymore. It's just that life was beginning to wear us down, and I couldn't help but feel trapped in the monotony of it all. I wish I had turned to her to talk about my doubts, my fears, and my frustrations. But instead, I made the worst decision of my life. I sought comfort elsewhere. It wasn't like I set out to cheat. It didn't even feel like cheating at first. I connected with an online acquaintance I had met through a community forum. At first, it was just friendly conversation, a distraction from the daily grind, but it quickly escalated into something much darker. Soon enough, we were sexting every day, sending explicit messages, and even video chatting on Skype while my wife was out working shifts. It was a betrayal, no doubt, even if there was no physical contact. The emotional and sexual connection I had with this stranger became a crutch, an escape from the pressures of my real life and the person I had vowed to share it with. It went on for weeks, maybe even months. Looking back, I can barely believe I allowed it to happen for so long. I was living in two different worlds. One where I was the responsible husband trying to make things work, and another where I indulged in a fantasy that made me forget about the mess I was creating. Eventually, like all lies, this one caught up with me. My wife noticed Skype had been downloaded on our shared laptop. I had been careless. She got suspicious and opened the app. The chat logs were there, waiting for her to find, and they told the entire story. Everything. My doubts about our marriage, the crude messages I had exchanged, the secret life I had been leading. The moment she confronted me was like being hit by a truck. I could see the hurt, the confusion, and the betrayal written all over her face. In my panic, I did what I could to salvage the situation. Though in hindsight, it was an incredibly selfish move. I grabbed the laptop from her, deleted everything, wiped all evidence of my conversations with this other woman. I thought I was doing it to protect her from the details, the awful things I had said and done behind her back. But it wasn't about protecting her. It was about protecting myself from the full weight of my own guilt. I admitted to the cheating. There was no denying it after what she had seen. I told her it had only been online, which was true, and that it had meant nothing, which was not entirely true. The emotional damage was real. Yet, despite everything, we eventually moved past it. She forgave me, though I'm sure it took her a long time to fully trust me again. I promised myself I'd never make that mistake again. I loved my wife, and I knew that no amount of online flirtation could ever replace the real connection we had built over the years. Life didn't get easier after that incident. Over the next decade, we faced the usual challenges of married life: raising kids, working demanding jobs, and juggling family responsibilities. It's the kind of grind that slowly wears you down, even when you're committed to making it work. Over time, intimacy in our marriage had taken a back seat to everything else. My wife started expressing that she was missing the closeness we once had, that she wanted more from our sex life. I wanted that too. But every time we tried to reignite the spark, something got in the way. Exhaustion, stress, or simply the pressures of daily life. We talk about fixing things but never really followed through. I didn't notice it at first, but my wife had started paying more attention to her phone. She'd be glued to it during quiet moments, often texting or scrolling through apps. When I asked her about it, she'd brush it off, saying it was just work or catching up with friends, but something felt off. Maybe it was a nagging sense of insecurity left over from my own betrayal years earlier, or maybe it was the little changes in her behavior that tipped me off. Whatever it was, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Then, one day, I gave in to my worst instincts. While she was out of the room, I picked up her phone and started going through her messages. It didn't take long to find what I had been dreading. She had been sexting with someone, A complete stranger, based on what I could see. They had exchanged explicit messages and pictures. It was like being punched in the gut. My head started spinning as I scrolled through the conversations, trying to make sense of it. The man was just some random guy from the internet. She didn't even seem to know his name. When she came back into the room, I confronted her immediately. My voice was shaking, my heart pounding. I could barely get the words out. She looked startled, then panicked. She grabbed the phone from my hands and did exactly what I had done a decade ago. She deleted everything. All the messages, the pictures, the evidence. It was gone in seconds. She admitted to what she had done. She told me that it had been recent, that it was purely online, and that it had happened because she was frustrated with the lack of intimacy in our marriage. She didn't know the guy, didn't care about him, but had gotten caught up in the excitement of it. She told me that what she really wanted was more connection with me, more closeness, more sex, and more attention. She said that despite everything, she still wanted to be with me and only me. I wanted to believe her. I still do. But I can't shake the feeling of betrayal. Even though I had done the same thing to her years ago, cheated online, deleted the evidence, and tried to move past it, this feels different. I think part of me had convinced myself that we had moved beyond the hurt I caused back then, that we were stronger for it. But now it's like the same wound has been ripped open again, and I'm not sure how to close it. I'm struggling with how to process all of this. On one hand, I know that people make mistakes. I made one, and she forgave me. Shouldn't I offer her the same grace she extended to me? After all, what she did seems to mirror what I did. A lapse in judgment caused by emotional and sexual frustration, a temporary escape from the stresses of real life. But on the other hand, it's hard to look at her the same way right now. I feel betrayed, hurt, and confused. I keep replaying the messages I saw in my head, wondering how we got here after everything we've been through. It's also hard to ignore the parallels between what happened then and what's happening now. She deleted the evidence, just like I did. She said she didn't want me to see the details because it would only hurt me, just like I had said all those years ago. It makes sense logically. She's protecting me from the painful specifics of what she said and did, and I did the exact same thing for the same reason. But knowing that doesn't make it any easier. Instead, it feels like we're both hiding from the truth. At the end of the day, I know I still love my wife. I don't want to throw away 10 years of marriage over an online fling, especially when I'm not exactly innocent myself. But I also don't know how to move forward. How do I trust her again after seeing what I saw? How do I stop the thoughts from swirling in my mind every time she picks up her phone or when we lie in bed together in silence? It's hard to reconcile the woman I've spent the last 10 years with, the mother of my children, my partner in life, with the person who was exchanging explicit texts with a stranger. But then again, maybe she had to go through the same thing after what I did to her. Maybe this is just a moment we need to overcome, a test of our resilience as a couple. We've been through so much already, and we've come out the other side stronger. Can we do it again? For now, I'm holding on to hope. We've talked about counseling, about making more time for each other, about reconnecting in ways we haven't in years. I want to believe that we can rebuild the trust that's been shattered, but I know it's going to take time and effort. I've made mistakes, and so has she. The question is, can we forgive each other once again and find our way back to the marriage we both want? Or is this the breaking point that neither of us can come back from? Only time will tell. But for now, I'm not ready to give up on us.